Is there a mindful revolution going on? Yes, there is. People in corporates are tired of the usual consulting. They are needing something more, and that more is in the form of what mindfulness can give a person in the corporate. It's an ability to withstand the pressure of what is going on rather than try and change. And so, yeah, there is definitely a revolution, especially in that space. Mental health means the ability to withstand those kind of pressures in life and the emotional turbulence that arrives. So the important things to cultivate is being able to firstly be aware of what's going on and withstand it. It's the resilience around it. And the way to do that is through mindful practices, sitting daily in meditation, mindful physical practices, that is, and anything which can focus a person to the exclusion of all the others, to build the muscle to be able to focus when there is chaos. Non-judgmental is a very, very deep topic for me. So I believe as humans we are judgmental. It has a function, but we need to understand that first. And if we understand what judgmentalism does for us, it means discerning a situation, and it means finding the intuition in the situation. So we've got to get away from judgmentalism as a pure reaction to a person or an event and find what's really going on deep inside us to say, okay, that person or event is bringing this up for me. How do I work with that? And again, mindfulness and meditation are practices that allow us to shape and grow that muscle. Mindfulness has allowed me to innovate through being quiet and allowing the creative energy to flow from somewhere other than my immediate ego-based brain. It almost bypasses that. It allows something else to arrive that I haven't thought of or that I'm not really trying to control. And that leads to creativity, which leads to innovation, and it leads to new ways to do things and doing things in better ways. Yes, I have practiced mindful breathing, and I actually find it quite challenging. My mind wanders very quickly. So for me, mindful breathing takes a lot of effort, and it's very rewarding because it is something that can clear my mind, especially if I breathe deeply and feel it filling my lungs and then exhaling deeply and kind of yoga type mindful breathing, then I really connect with it. But it is something I concentrate very, very hard on when I'm being mindful about it. Where is my awareness mainly? I'd have to say my awareness is mainly my thoughts. My thoughts are very active, drive a lot of the emotional stuff which arrives for me. And that is something I do and have become aware of through being mindful. And it's about actually just not believing the thoughts all the time. It's not believing what happens in my mind. And it's about feeling and becoming aware of other parts of the body. So the emotions and the body, and yeah, letting the thoughts come and go as they will, but not buying into them. Sure, yes, be curious. And it has improved that aspect of my life by allowing me to stop judging situations or to become curious of what is going on in that particular situation. And it's about allowing me to open up to more than just what I think about a situation. So it's allowing the curiosity arrive to say, okay, this is going on, this is happening, this person's doing X. What is really going on for that person in the situation? How am I showing up without being judgmental and allowing the creativity and those creative responses to arrive so that something new arrives? The difference between reacting and responding is very wide. So reaction is almost a knee-jerk type response to something. It's without thought. It's just X happens, so Y happens. Responding is a lot more deeper, and it's an act that comes with reflection. act, an act that comes with an understanding of the situation, more intuitive kind of way to be in that situation than the reaction, which is near fight, flight or response kind of mode, if we bring it into neuroscience in the mind. And response is coming from somewhere far deeper. It's where the creative areas are in the mind and the body. So responding comes from that. So you might feel the sting, but you might not need to kick your knee. You might actually stand up and move somewhere else. So putting myself in the shoes of somebody that has done me wrong is not very easy for me at all. Being a person that lives very intellectually, I feel bruised if I feel wronged, and my mind makes up many stories. And using mindfulness to find a way to actually calm myself down, stop thinking so much, and more reflect on the other person and the situation again, and try and understand what could be going on for them, is now something that's becoming a little bit more easier for me. Still one of the more challenging aspects of the mindful practice, and life's a journey, and this is one that I'm going to work on for a long time, I think. But it is becoming more natural to stop reacting, to start responding more, to start understanding what's going on for the other person. A good deed that I can commit to for the next week for someone else would have to be somebody in my work circle that is being quite a challenge for me. And the good deed that I'm going to commit to is actually every day saying something encouraging, every day saying what is working well, giving some kind of reward for something that does work well, and doing that every single day. And finding that part, so not just finding the parts that need to be worked on or the parts that are upsetting me. I don't know so much what ways I'd like to rewire my brain, more than I'd like to start living in a different way with my brain. So it's about not allowing the brain to rule my life, not allowing the intellectual responses to dictate what I do. It's about finding another way to be in life, using the mind as a tool and just working with it, not allowing it to dominate my entire life's experience. Find other ways, so from the heart or from a compassionate view of the world, rather than just my brain working. It must become a mindful life with other parts of my body. Fixed mindset, to me, can be encompassed with a graph I saw from one of our mindful guru teachers, which was a graph of how, as we get older, there are certain things that happen in our minds and we become very, very fixated and very stuck in a certain position. That fixed mindset can happen at any time of life, but it stops us from seeing other ways. It stops us from experiencing other modes of being, of reality. And through becoming mindful, firstly, of the place where we're in, perhaps in that fixed mind state, we can start to allow, from a neuroscientific point of view, that neuroplasticity to arrive, to soften us in the experience, to find other ways of being. So we might find other ways to think about what's going on from a mindset perspective. Growth mindset, for me, and I'm smiling because I don't like the idea of growth. However, growth to me means expansion, awareness, an expansion of awareness in a certain way of being. And if we can find new ways to see ourselves in life, that is how our mindset expands and our awareness grows for what we're experiencing. And that happens through mindfulness, whether it's sitting daily or whether it's mindful eating. Our awareness will expand into those ways of being. Consciousness expands. I think at certain level mindful circles are really valuable to me because I see other people that are also in that space, and other people that are keen to sit quietly in a very mindful, very determined way, that we're concentrating. We're not just sitting quietly doing nothing. We are actively focused on sitting quietly. And that takes us a bit deeper, where if we think about a bunch of people that are all doing this and are all shifting their awareness, it allows that energy to shift and expand as well. So this is more than just a kind of logical 1 + 1 = 2. This is almost a 1 + 1 = 4. We are expanding through the group of people that are doing it, and hopefully allowing new things to arrive for people that aren't even in those circles. So it'll sort of expand to other areas, particularly in business, for those things to arrive. And it's a common interest that people share, and it's a common experience. So outside of the work environment, in other things I'm involved in, I've started to bring this in. And it's amazing how people who say they are super mindful, just sitting quietly, can become quite difficult, and we're all shaping this together. How do I cope with excessive stress now, or how did I used to cope before I started this practice? I now cope a lot better. I used to be very reactive. I used to have a lot of stress in my body, and then it was constantly fighting headaches or heartburn, and then it was eating badly, creating just a very, very bad ecosystem in my own world. Through mindfulness now, I've been able to calm that need to go out and reach for the hamburger or the chocolate. Not always, but mostly. And it's allowed me to respond to those situations easier. It hasn't taken them away, but I can now almost become the observer and distance myself from actually what's going on and for what is going on for me in that, and finding a way to respond creatively, rather than just react without thinking, or allowing the thoughts to dominate the reaction without awareness. So it's created a massive shift for me. And last year, going through this training was a difficult year for me through circumstances that arrived. And I'm very grateful for the mindful practice I've learned. It allowed me to survive the year in a far different way than I've been in the past. So attending mindful teacher training brought a very deep perspective into many mindful practices, ideas, concepts, the neuroscience behind it. And firstly, it helped me to establish my daily practice, which I wasn't doing before. So that really got established through the mindful teacher training. It's opened my interest into the neuroscientific world, into learning and understanding what people are doing today, and learning about how, that kind of world is seeing itself, and that there are other people also involved at that level and are keen to partake in the teacher training. And another thing it's done for me is actually given me the confidence to go into my work environment and set up a mindful circle. Just a weekly practice, 10-15 minutes, and a bit of discussion. It's allowed me to know how to shape that discussion. It's allowed me to know how other people can benefit, and I can bring that to people that need it because they haven't experienced mindfulness in my team. And that's been probably the most powerful aspect of it for me. Open-hearted is a beautiful concept for me. It means we start responding and experiencing our world not just from our brain or our intellect, it's from our heart. And that has a lineage far, far back in time into different spaces, Buddhism and many other very deep cultures, that if we can use our heart to actually experience the world, we'll find a different way of being. So that open-heartedness that can come through mindfulness means we are opening ourselves up to the world, and we are able to resonate and respond in different environments in different ways opening to creativity. There's so much in open-heartedness. It's huge as a topic of discussion. But that's what it is for me. And it really means just being in the world differently. Leadership is a very tricky concept for me. I think that leaders are actually very few and far between. What mindfulness can do for the corporate world, where we have the idea that people are leaders, is allowing those people who are actually in positions of authority and use it as a position of authority to start becoming aware. If people can become aware of that and start to appreciate that perhaps they are more dictating a situation or commanding a situation, it's going to result in them being aware of it for themselves, and that might change how they are delivering what they need to do, how they are asking people, telling people to do what they need to do. That will make everybody around them relax. That'll probably allow a lot more creativity. That'll probably allow a lot more of something which is lacking in the corporate world specifically, which is, I guess the word that comes to mind is cohesion. And whether you're in a position of authority and say I'm a leader, or whether you're the person who has to be working with or reporting into that person, it'll allow much more focused, goal-orientated cultural setting so that corporate worlds can get what they need done, without so much of the jargon, without so much of calling ourselves leaders or followers or managers and reports. It's just about awareness again, and it's about respecting where you are, but it's about respecting where the other person is. My favorite mindfulness practice is actually flying an aeroplane. And the reason for that is because when you're sitting in that cockpit, it is you, it is the airplane, it is the weather, it is everything around you. Everything else falls away. And you are so focused on what is going on in that moment, in the now, even though you have a goal and you have a place where you started, you are only in that place. You might be able to think a few steps ahead, but if I relate that back into my normal non-flying world, it's exactly the same thing. It's about bringing that awareness and attention back to where I am right now. What's going on for me? How am I feeling? What's the weather doing? So what's happening around me? How much fuel is in the tank? Where are my energy levels? Who am I talking to? What is the communication like? And being very aware of that environment for me based on the ground. So not in an aeroplane, but it is a mindful practice. It is very deep awareness and concentration in that moment, full-bodied, full-minded, open-hearted.